So Patrick is a pantheist in Florida. Pronouns are he, him, and has a question for us. So welcome back, Patrick. We're glad we didn't lose you permanently.
Woo-hoo.
Hey, thanks for having me back on. Appreciate you all. Yeah, I was wanting to say, like, I'm primarily atheist, I guess, from most standpoints. But, like, I wanted to ask you all, why would I want to be an atheist? Because I just feel strong in this pantheism, so I need some pretty good, you know, I don't know.
Because it's true.
So when you say pantheism,
I just went. I didn't know what to say for a second.
When you say pantheism, normally that means the notion that the universe is God.
Yes, literally.
Okay.
Not metaphorically.
What does that?
I don't believe Einstein was thinking that was metaphorically.
Well, he did, but since you think it literally, you literally think
what he thought, or maybe you could explain.
Yes, I know what he thought because I've read his writings and I've written about it before in the past. But let me get to this point. Since you, Patrick, think that the universe is literally God, what does that mean? What are the characteristics that make the universe a God?
Well, for me, I had said, you know, it would be a guess from a human standpoint, but I would say my guess would be that God would have to be conscious, the origin of all other things in existence, and have some, you know, that's the basics. And, you know, I threw in there without beginning or end because I stole that from the Bible. Sounded good to me. And the universe.
Okay, so here's the problem. Here's the problem, Patrick. The universe is neither endless nor is it conscious. So
now, wait a minute. Wait.
Hang on. Hang on.
You're taking a leap of faith right now.
Hang on. Hang on. Do you have evidence that the universe is conscious?
What I want to know is, do you have evidence that the universe is finite? Because you just said it was finite.
Yeah, the current cosmology shows that the universe had a beginning. Current cosmology shows that the universe had a beginning, Big Bang cosmology. What happened before that is not our local universe, that's the cosmos.
That's not necessarily true. That could be one of an infinite series of beginnings. That's not a beginning.
No, Patrick, even if it was an infinite series, each of those are individual universes. Our local presentation of our universe, the current cosmology suggests that it had a beginning. Whether there were multiple beginnings of other universes before that, whether it's one of many in a multiverse, that is speculative. And so if you want to claim that the universe has always existed, you actually have to provide evidence of that. Just like if you want to claim the universe is conscious, you have to provide evidence of that.
That's the interesting part to me, is the consciousness aspect of it.
You have no evidence of a finite universe.
Patrick, you're not listening to me, and that's really frustrating. That I just described to you the local presentation of our universe based on the best cosmology we have is that it had a beginning, and that I'm fine with the notion that there may have been multiple beginnings to other universes before. I'm fine with the notion that there may have been multiverse, but that's speculation. If you want to claim that the universe was in fact infinite, which you need to do to support your own definition of God, you need to provide evidence for it and stop pretending that I need to provide evidence against it. That's not how this works.
I have questions about how the consciousness aspect of this works, because that's where it falls apart for me. Can I ask you a question about the consciousness aspect, Patrick? I'm just going to ask. I have a question about the consciousness aspect. So my understanding is that if God is the universe, and God would exist within like every quark, every molecule, every atom of the universe would be a component of God. So each of those would need to have an aspect of his consciousness. Since we know that we are conscious and separate from the universe, we don't feel everything that happens in the universe. But for this to make sense to me, every molecule of my being would have to be a component of God, but somehow simultaneously separate, and also simultaneously be part of the aggregate of God's consciousness. And that's where it falls apart to me, because the universe doesn't have a singular consciousness. And if it did have a singular consciousness, we would be a component of that. And there's no evidence that we are a component of that.
How would you evidence that?
Well, this is your claim, though, right?
Yeah.
So your claim is that the universe is conscious and is God.
Let me try. Hang on for just a second. Hang on for just a second, Patrick. Hang on for just a second, Patrick. Because when I asked you about how the universe is literally God, you gave 3 characteristics: that it was infinite, which goes against cosmology; that it is conscious, which Shannon has asked you for evidence for, and it would be nice if you'd present it rather than pretending like, well, if you just say, how would you present evidence for that? Then what you're doing is admitting that you believe something without evidence for it. But the third component was that you said it had to be the origin of all. And when I pushed back on the notion that the universe was infinite by saying that the universe had a beginning, you proposed a model wherein our universe is not the origin of all. So even your own attempts to answer my first objection,
good point,
completely contradicts your third one. So let's just skip those 2 and go right to consciousness. How could you demonstrate that the universe is conscious? Because that's what you believe.
Yeah.
You know, that's a theory in science and in philosophy, mainly philosophy, but
that's not an answer, though. We're asking you to demonstrate it, and you're saying, well, some other people wrote or thought about it and talked about it elsewhere. I'm not really aware of what they said, but I believe it anyway. So clearly you believe it for a reason. I gave you something that seems to be a direct refutation of the hypothesis that you put forward. And your response to me is, well, there's other people that wrote about it. I'm not really, I don't personally understand it, and I'm not familiar with the arguments, but I believe it anyway. That's not only not compelling to me, it's disappointing that it's compelling to you.
I haven't said that. I haven't been afforded the opportunity to speak, really. Like, as many times I've called in here, I get talked over.
Patrick, we've let you speak. Okay,
Patrick, I've asked you the question. Shannon and I are going to stop talking now. I've asked you the question. Shannon's asked you the question. What evidence do you have that the universe is literally conscious?
Well, we are conscious. We are elements of the universe. She said she's separate from the universe. I don't know how she can separate herself from the universe. That makes no sense to me. You're part of it, Shannon.
My conscious experience is segregated, though, admittedly so.
Patrick, is a chocolate chip
an element of the universe?
Patrick, stop and listen. Is a chocolate chip an element of a chocolate chip cookie? Patrick went away. Oh. So here's the thing.
Cookie argument for the win, I guess.
There's a thing about the properties of the constituent parts are not the properties of the whole. And so within the universe, there can be conscious agents, and that does not mean that the universe itself is conscious. In the same way that a chocolate chip can taste chocolatey, but the rest of the cookie is not chocolatey. That's a fallacy to suggest that because a local aspect of something has a property, that it extends to the whole. This is a logical fallacy.
Yeah, I would have been interested to hear an explanation for the unification problem there, because I would have to be a part of God's consciousness, like a component of God's consciousness, but be entirely unaware of it and be having my own unique experiences. It just seems odd to me, but I don't know. Never know.